Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Bovee and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Matt, have you ever really had a position on something but because so many people have a other position, you might kind of push back even on your own position? I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know. You just kind of feel like, well, wait a minute, maybe I'm a little too far. Okay. So I might be confusing the way I say that. So I am here to tell you, I want to start off this recap show of Bills Dolphins by telling you, I absolutely agree. There are a lot of things that the Bills did not do great on Thursday night. There's definitely things we need to talk about.
Sure.
But I think there's been such an overreaction to a lot of it from a lot of fans after they still scored 31 points again and won a division game by 10 points, that even after thinking to myself, oh my God, here's what they need to do wrong. And boy, I didn't like this, or I didn't like that I want to scream to everybody how great they played, which they didn't. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Because they didn't play great. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Man, I just think it felt like this morning, Thursday morning to me, and I do not mean to start the show off negative at all. But man, it felt like this morning to me, waking up on a Friday morning, like the Bills lost to a lot of people. And I just think that you can't look at it that way. There are definitely things that they need to clean up, but they won by scoring 31 points and a 10-point win at home over a division opponent.
So I agree with you mostly. The only pushback that I would say is that I think the criticism and the fear from Bills fans isn't even related to the game we watched, but it's related to the potential shortcomings again in their pursuit to try and get to the Super Bowl.
Sure.
So when we talk about, oh, this wasn't good enough, or, oh, this is something that needs to improve, I don't think people are talking about that and harping on that because of even the regular season. I think they're thinking, but if we have to play the Ravens again, or if we have to play a better team, they're going to be able to exploit this so much more than a meddling 0-3 Dolphins team was able to. So I don't disagree with you. Division win, 10 points. They still won by 10 points. They scored 31 points. They held an at times explosive Dolphins offense, although it was not explosive yesterday, to 21 points.
They only had 4.7 yards per play, which actually I was kind of surprised the Dolphins. That's very low.
Yeah, for sure. So overall, they won a division game, and they've got the best record in the NFL right now.
It's a good point. It's a great point. And it's something I've said many times. And there's a saying I used to say a lot on the radio. I don't as much anymore, but I'll say it again. I used to say, and I'll just bring this up. Every game has its own DNA. And what I mean by that is you didn't play the Chiefs. You didn't play the Ravens. Every game is different. Every matchup is different. What do we say all the time about the Ravens? Don't we think, you and I both believe, that the Bills are a way better matchup for the Chiefs than they are the Ravens, right? Like the Ravens just a bad matchup for the Bills because of how they're built. And also every game is different. This is an 0-2 Dolphins team that was fighting for their season. Just because you were deficient in an area on Thursday night doesn't mean you would be a deficient in a certain area in another game because of how you prepare. But I agree with you. There are things that you have to look at and say, where can you get better? Because that's what the team will do. They'll go back and they'll say, what was the issue here? Why did this happen? And we'll start with third down defense, right? That was something that obviously reared its ugly head once again. But we could talk about all that. In the meantime, let's turn it into a positive.
Sure.
Hey, you wake up this morning, the Bills are the first team in the league to get to 3-0.
Yeah.
And, they're atop the division at 3-0. And now they have 10 days to get ready for their next game. And they have some young guys getting a lot of reps right now. They played 2 games in 4 days. They played a reeling Miami Dolphins team that was giving it their best shot. They came to Buffalo. They were game. They were fighting. And the Bills get a couple critical plays when needed, including a penalty against Miami. And they walk out of that stadium 3-0. Final time ever for the Dolphins inside Highmark Stadium. You could not let them beat you in your building in that scenario.
Yeah, and I think back to what we saw happen yesterday, and I feel like the big turning point for the game, and a lot of people would feel the same way, were that the Dolphins made 2 crucial mistakes and the Bills did not. The 2 crucial mistakes were the Zach Sealer roughing the punter penalty, and then the Tua interception that Terrell Bernard made a great play on, and that ultimately sealed the game. I feel like at times the Bills were a tad too conservative on both sides of the ball. And that is that is a result of them doing everything they can to not make a mistake. Sometimes that bothers me a little bit. I like when they're able to just let it rip when they're trailing against the Ravens and Josh Allen throws for 250 yards. But this was not one of those games. I think the Bills know we're the superior team. If we don't make a mistake, we need to wait until they do, and they will, and we will take advantage of it, which played out. Now, for the first 3 quarters of the game, at times, I'm sure fans wanted to pull their hair out of like, what is going on? Why is this team still hanging around? But then it happened again. They made the mistakes and the Bills did not, and they were able to get a win. There were some things to like about the game. There were some things that I definitely think need to improve. But for crying out loud, 3-0, like you can't start better than 3-0. And the other thing that goes back to your DNA point, there have been times when the Bills have started great and I thought they were a juggernaut and then they fizzled out pretty quick. And there have been times where I've had some serious concerns and they've gone to the AFC Championship.
Yeah.
So we have no idea what's going to happen. I just think that's where some of the frustration or criticism on a Friday morning after a win comes from. I don't think it's about the game. I think it's about oh no, here we go again. They've got some fatal flaw that's going to keep them from getting to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, all that is fair. I would say, though, that early in the game, I didn't think they were being too conservative. They were doing whatever they wanted on offense. They were just moving the ball down the field. Miami could not stop them on the first 2 drives. And Dalton Kincaid scores. And who gets the second touchdown? Was it James Cook, whoever? Jackson Hawes. I mean, after that, the Bills were just rolling, right?
Yeah.
And then a critical time in the game. And I think a lot of things changed here on that third series.
Definitely.
When the Bills had a chance to go up 2 scores. They get down to the Miami 16-yard line. Then they have an incompletion or maybe a short gain, then no gain, and then a sack, and then the missed field goal. And then Miami comes down and scores. Suddenly, you go from potentially being up at worst 17-7 and probably 21-7 to now 14-14 going to halftime and giving that team life. That's when things started to change for me. The Bills did score in their first possession of the third quarter, thankfully, because they didn't do much after that. They actually had a couple of punts right in a row. So no doubt, I didn't think the game plan was conservative. I think it was, they can't stop us. We can run, we can throw. As the game went on, it was tight. I agree with you. And it was a little bit too conservative for me. That being said, I've gotten a lot this morning of, well, I can't believe someone said to me, I can't believe they didn't allow Josh to throw downfield. I actually think being on the field level, Josh checked it down quite a bit. I wondered, I haven't dug into it. I wonder what Miami was doing to say, you're just not throwing the ball down the field on us, because I think there were several times Josh looked to throw down the field and then he just couldn't do it and he had to check down. I don't believe for 1 second they told him you can't do that. But I do think that there are things built into this offense which say, hey, let's just make sure we, don't make mistakes and, get the ball down the field because, we have the ability to do it in a number of different ways. And I think that's where you can get in a lot of trouble.
Well, the only thing I'll say about that is Josh was protected so well in yesterday's game. The defensive line for the Dolphins is their bread and butter. And besides that, they have a whole lot of questions, especially on their defense. And I think they only got to Allen on like 9% of his dropbacks, and they blitzed at some crazy rate, like 40%. So Josh Allen was not getting pressured. So when you're not getting pressured, I feel like you shouldn't be checking it down as often as they were, because you have times to let plays develop. And maybe he just internally is like, yeah, we're going to win this game. I'm not going to try and force it in some window that isn't there. But I mean, we're talking about maybe the worst secondary in the NFL right now. So I don't know if that's an indictment on the lack of separation from the Bills pass catchers, or what I really think it is, honestly, is that the Bills really have at this point no fear of a vertical threat. Like there's nobody that they roll out that I think teams are thinking about beating them over the top. So that allows defenses to play a little bit differently when you truly don't think, okay, like one of these guys is a threat to really, really stretch the field. So I think that might be a little bit of it. They scored 31 points. Like that's a very solid day. It's
amazing to think about when you think about everything you just said, and you still score 31, right?
Still scored 31. I think it shows us how high the floor for the offense is, because even on a day when we're having these conversations, they scored 31 points. Like that to some teams is the best performance they'll have in the season. For the Bills, it's just what they do basically every single week. And I think that there's, even room for improvement for the offense that's already been really, really good.
Yeah, that's right. And I think part of it is there is a long game here, right? If you listen to Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, especially McDermott, going back into the offseason, one of their big mantras is, hey, we have Josh Allen, and he stays healthy, he's the guy that's going to get us there. He's the best in the league. And I do think there's an element that might be coming into play here that I think maybe the Bills have to kind of readjust a little bit, because playing these tighter games because of it, there's an element of, hey, we can win by just keeping our quarterback healthy and not taking a lot of risks and not having him sit back there in the pocket and not having him turn the ball over, taking shots and things like that. How do you do that? You lean on a good running game, you check it down, things like that. It could wind up biting them, no doubt. And every game is going to be different. It almost did against the Ravens, but of course he goes out there and has the fourth quarter he does. So I would like to see a bit of a change of philosophy. But before I rush to judgment on how Joe Brady's calling the game on these passes, I want to see what Miami did, because you're talking about Josh Allen. This is not Trent Edwards. Josh Allen can throw the ball down the field, and he has plenty of times in his life. I can't believe they're telling him just don't do that.
Yeah, and the other thing too, and this is something we feels like we talk about every year in some capacity, and I think there's validity to it. Josh Allen ain't going to start running until January. He's just not. He is going to scramble, but he is not going to run a ton unless they're in critical moments in huge games. He had 4 rushes for 25 yards yesterday, and one of them was 19 yards. So really after that, it was just him trying to not take a sack, and then there was the thing that they tried at the end of the game to put it on ice on third down. So that's another element of the offense that changes everything, because I think what you said is very true. The Bills are like, we need a healthy and available Josh Allen. So they try and limit that as much as they can right now. But when they get to those big games, that is a way to really make a defense sweat. Because when you have the stuff that you're able to do and Josh can start to run, that puts a ton of pressure, especially on like the linebackers of a defense. And it sounded like yesterday Tyrell Dodson was kind of spying Josh Allen too. So he was kind of, like lingering, and most teams are going to spy Josh Allen. I just don't think he was really thinking about, I'm going to beat that. Like, I'm going to beat that guy. Like, I can beat Tyrell Dodson, or I'm going to run through Tyrell Dodson, because in the playoffs, that's exactly what he would think. Week 3, I don't think that's the MO.
All right. So you bring up a really good point about the wide receivers. Is it time to start evaluating that? And at the risk of, here we go, wide receiver again, is it time to have that conversation again, which is, do they not have separators? We had this conversation a lot last year. They went out, they signed Amari Cooper to try and help. And not that he was the separator, but to give everybody a little bit more of a chance to have different roles and how they could do it. Is it time to have that conversation again about what they have in the receiver room as far as separators?
I don't know. I don't know, because it feels like the sample size is a tad too small, and they've scored a ton of points. So it's like, okay, what? Because I wouldn't have said, after the Ravens game, they had guys who did separate, right? Keon separated in that game. Josh Palmer separated in that game. So that was good. The Jets game, it never felt like that was really the game plan, was going to be to test the secondary. It was run the ball and then throw to whoever Brandon Stevens was covering. And then in this past game, I admittedly thought the secondary for the Dolphins stunk. So I thought that this was going to be a big game for the wide receivers. And it was just a very everybody eats game.
Yeah, this game was everybody eats. That's what this game was.
So I don't think we're ready to go there. I like some of the elements that each of the guys they've added has brought, used very sparingly, but I thought Elijah Moore was effective when he was on the field yesterday. Agreed. Had a huge play that got them the first down at the end. He had the end around run that was a nice gain. He also had a play that would have been a first down, but was called back because of a holding, also on the last drive.
That's right.
So what did he finish with? I think it was only 2 catches for 30 yards. Yeah, he finished.
But he had the run as well, as you brought up, and that was for 11 yards. So 41 yards on 3 touches.
Yeah, 41 yards on 3 touches is not nothing. And considering Shakir had 45 yards on 4 touches, and Kincaid had 66 yards on 5 catches. He led the way for the Bills yesterday. Thought he had a nice day. So, yeah, the separating conversation is probably one that we're going to have soon, right?
You know what I can hear now, right? I can hear it right now, Matt, which is how many people just wanted Curtis Samuel cut, and now we're going to start having 2 people. Why did Curtis Samuel get on the field? Maybe he could separate. That's what's going to happen now. You know that, right?
Oh, for sure. And, it feels like we're just waiting for the wide receiver they potentially trade for in 3 weeks.
Right. And by the way, Curtis Samuel is still inactive, and it is another guy that maybe they can add a different element to, and maybe they take the next 10 days to figure out if they want to do that. And again, I'm not even suggesting that there's an issue there either, because I do think what you said is right. I'm glad you said it. I said it on the radio this morning. I was on with Jeremy and Joe. I said, this is truly the everybody eats mantra, what they did on Thursday night. 9 different pass catchers caught passes. 10 different players were targeted, but 9 different guys caught passes. 6 different guys caught at least 2 passes. 6 players had at least 10 yards receiving. This is exactly what it means by everybody eats, and eating and leading the way at the table was Dalton Kincaid. You could argue this was his best game in a Buffalo Bills uniform. Dalton Kincaid, 5 catches, 66 yards, a touchdown. Maybe should have had another one. He just, he tried to get in the end zone. He was stopped. Big collision at the goal line. But this is the Dalton Kincaid, not only receiving, but blocking as well, that I think the Bills really wanted to see going into 2025.
Yeah, some nice blocks from Dalton Kincaid and Tyrell Shavers for that matter.
Yes.
So kudos to both of those guys. I would push back, and you didn't say it. You said it's one of his. I think actually Kincaid's best game also came against the Dolphins in the regular season finale a couple years ago when they won the AFC Championship. He was really good in that game. And yesterday I told Carl Jones, who was sitting a couple seats over from me in the press box, I was like, he's trending towards having his best game as a pro early on in the game, and then was pretty, I don't want to say ineffective, but was not thrown at really as much from the second quarter to the end of the game. Like most of his production came on that first drive. And then there was the actual ball that I don't know if it was a drop or if the defender made a great play. It was a dime from Josh Allen in the corner of the end zone. So that one he doesn't bring in. That was a tough catch. He does have the nice play in the second half on the play where he's able to kind of hit the corner on the first drive of the second half. Looked like he was going to be able to get into the end zone. I thought for a second maybe he even slowed down. And I was like, why did he slow down? But then after watching the replay, he didn't. He just never dove towards the pylon, which I know is what they tell you not to do. Like, don't risk the fumble through the end zone. But yeah, I thought Dalton Kincaid had a very, very strong day, which is a promising sign. And collectively, the tight ends have been really great. I mean, like
exactly what the Bills want.
Yeah, the Dawson Knox drops from last week, that's something, but I feel like they still, of course, trust Dawson Knox. And then Jackson Hawes has felt like a revelation. And, he gets rewarded with the touchdown in the game on Thursday, but the blocking is just so superb from him.
Listen, I mean, I just went through the numbers. 10 guys targeted, 9 guys with catches. Dawson Knox wasn't even one of them, right? And Dawson Knox is usually a guy that is good for a catch or 2 a game, like maybe 2 or 3. But in the locker room after the game, talking with the tight ends, one of the things that we talked about, and this is something the Bills have really tried to do and wanted to do, and it's coming to fruition. 13 personnel from the Bills puts teams in binds. Yeah. When the Bills roll out 3 tight ends, and they did this, and Jackson Hawes was on the field quite a bit, 3 tight ends on the field quite a bit. When the Bills do that, mostly when you see that in the NFL, teams are coming right at you and you load the box on defense. Teams can't do that against the Bills because they can throw to any one of these guys. And then you add in Reggie Gilliam, and who was it? Jackson Hawes called it a 4-man snake, 4-headed snake with Reggie Gilliam. And it's right. And then there's Jackson Hawes putting Matthew Judon on the ground and then being available for a touchdown pass from Josh Allen, who, as Chris Brown said, I liked it, looked like Magic Johnson as a distributor, as a point guard, flicking the ball to him. So 13 personnel is working exactly how the Bills wanted. But one of the reasons that they love 13 personnel is because it also opens up the running game. And here comes James Cook. And Matt, James Cook, after getting paid, has been just as good, if not better, early this season as he was last year. 19 carries, 108 yards, 5.7 yards a carry, another touchdown, ties a franchise record with 7 straight regular season games with a rushing touchdown.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to notice, even with James Cook, is that the usage has also gone up. Last year, it felt like they had a little bit more of a 3-headed monster with their running backs. Now it feels like they have a 1.5-headed monster, or let's say a 2-headed monster, and it's James Cook, and then Ty Johnson gets like 3/4 of a guy, and then Ray, like, I don't even know if Ray Davis, did he have it?
He didn't get the ball. He had a pass thrown to him. That, man, the defender made a nice play. If not, Reyes probably has a pretty good gain, but he did not get a handoff.
Oh, yeah. There was another little shuffle. That was against Tyrell Dodson. It was another little shuffle.
That's right.
So James Cook has been awesome, and I think that it was very ridiculous, and I'm sure I made the argument at times too, thinking that you would just be able to replace his production. And being like, Ray Davis had a great game against the Jets on Monday Night Football last year. It's probably more of a product of the offensive line. It's not. James Cook is just very, very good. He's deceptively fast. His ability to cut on a dime like we used to see with LaShawn McCoy. He's become a more reliable pass catcher. He's just a really, really good player. He's, for the Bills, besides Josh Allen and probably besides a couple of their offensive linemen, as important as it gets on their team.
No doubt about it. Josh Allen, by the way, 22 of 28, 78.5% passing, 213 yards, not a lot of yards, 3 touchdowns. But, I'm seeing a lot of stats this morning about Josh's, protecting the football. And I think I'm going to find this tweet. Joe DiBiase, who I worked with, had a great tweet this morning. I did not realize. I think it's over his last. Let me just find this real quick. Josh Allen,
30 touchdowns and 1 interception.
Yes,
right?
30 touchdowns, 1 interception over his last 11 games, including the postseason. That is incredible.
That is incredible.
I believe he hasn't thrown an interception in quite a while, actually. Like
when you say that, you got to knock on wood, right? Like, that's
I
always
know.
Don't do the announcer jinx or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I thought Josh had a good day. I don't think it was a spectacular day. I think it was a totally serviceable, weird Thursday night football day where he had 3 total touchdowns, which is obviously still really, really strong. No turnovers, The passing yards won't wow you. The rushing was not all there yesterday. But, 213 yards. He had 6 incompletions, and 2 of which I would quantify as drops. So, you're 22 of 28. It's really probably should be 24 of 28. Like, that's a pretty damn effective day for a quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's talk about the concerning things in this game, because third down defense reared its
third down defense
again, and
yeah,
really was mostly third and long defense, which is something. Remember last week you pointed out correctly how part of the reason the Bills held the Jets to 0 for 11 was because they put the Jets in third and long. Well, in this game they put the Dolphins in third and long, and they completed. From what I saw, I'm going to put it more on the fact that the pass rush couldn't get home on these third and longs, because they got close. Like Bosa got close to Tua a couple times, but other than that, like good job by Tua. You don't expect him to extend plays. He extended plays. Yeah. And when it's third and long and you extend plays that you have to cover a little bit longer, yes, there were issues in the back end. But I think more than anything, Matt, boy, the pass rush just did not get home in this game. You got to do a better job to get to Tua in those situations.
Against an inferior offensive line, or one that we thought was inferior after what they allowed the Patriots to do to them a week ago. Yeah, I think that Bosa had some times where he was close, but I'm still wondering, like, we really haven't seen much from Greg Rousseau, at least as far as a pass rusher through 3 games of the season. That's somebody that they paid. They need more out of. I think AJ Epinesa has made some nice plays actually collectively for them over the course of these first couple weeks, but is not, some pass rush specialist. Right. Same thing with Javon Solomon. Like, he's supposed to give them pass rush juice, and then they've moved him a little bit all over the place as like part of a NASCAR package, but there hasn't been much there. TJ Sanders has been underwhelming as a pass rusher up to this point. Daquan Jones, I think, is at a different point in his career where it's, you're not expecting a ton out of him. So just collectively, it was not good enough. Like, that is the thing. The pass rush is just non-existent yesterday.
Well, I would wonder too, and I do think that not having Ed Oliver matters here, right? Because everybody has to play a different role without Ed Oliver. And I'm not saying Ed Oliver is this amazing pass rusher. He's a penetrator, but Ed Oliver allows everybody else maybe to have less attention, play a little bit different role. When Ed Oliver's penetrating on a third and long, because he's an undersized guy who can penetrate, now you have the ability to do maybe some more twists and stunts on the inside with a Joey Bosa, because somebody's being occupied, somebody's occupying, or Ed Oliver is getting occupied by a couple of people. I did see the snap counts. Some people wondered, man, Bosa, there's no way they can kill 87%. He was on the field for 87% of the snaps, 53 out of 61. I would also say, though, I bet you that's a product of the fact that they knew they had 10 days off after this.
Yeah,
right?
I think so too.
Yeah, you got to look. They played 2 games in 4 days, and Joey Bosa was great on the previous Sunday against the Jets. And then I think very late in the game, they got him out. But they have a game and they've rest for 10 days pretty much. So I think that would probably be a product of why they did that. Interior defensive line, saw some nice flashes from Deion Walker, who, by the way, did he actually get a hand on the Terrell Bernard?
So I've watched it 10 times. And
he said in the locker room, Terrell needs to thank me because it was my pressure. He never said he touched the ball, though.
I can't tell. Regardless, great play. Like this splash play, it's nuts that we're now basically done with this podcast and we're just talking about the play that kind of sealed the game. But Deion Walker beats his man at the line, quick move to the inside, forces Tua to throw the ball. Bernard reads the play, he shouts out after the game, Al Holcomb, one of their coaches,
Yep.
saying like, hey, this is a look that they use a lot. If you see this, jump this play. So coaching matters. And Terrell Bernard, I think the linebackers have had a pretty meh start to the season. That's the stuff that you need from Terrell Bernard, the splash plays. And he did it again. So kudos
You
to
know what
him
else
there.
he said besides Holcomb? This is when you say coaching matters, you're right. Film study, being smart, preparing, be a professional matters. He said also went up to him after the press conference, just said, hey, I just want to clarify. Like I said, when did you see it? He said, I saw it earlier in the game. He said, first of all, the Jets ran that play and had some yardage on it. So we figured that they would do the same thing. The Dolphins saw that formation earlier in the game, and I kind of knew it was coming, and they didn't throw it there. So I said, next time I see that, I think they're going to throw it there. This is film study. He knew it, Matt. He saw it and said, they're throwing the ball there, and he jumped it.
Football's awesome, man.
Amazing.
Like this kind of stuff is just the football geeks in us where we like get excited because we're like, wow, look at how it all kind of comes to fruition, right?
Yeah.
The coach bringing it up, the film study of knowing that play could potentially be out there and then making that play in that moment to seal the win for the Bills. So yeah, that stuff's awesome. So great play from Terrell Bernard, great play from Deion Walker to get back there. Whether he tipped it or not, that's a good sign. I mean, they're using Deion Walker is in very valuable snaps right now. Very like same thing, even more so Walker than TJ Sanders. But with the injuries that they've had, the one thing I'll say about the defense, and I posted this on X this morning, and this is not meant to be an excuse because I said, like, listen, 3-0, that's the most important thing. I put important to remember for the Bills defense, which has been inconsistent for the season. They will be getting reinforcements. They played this game without Ed Oliver and without Matt Milano. Neither player went to IR when they were eligible, so that indicates that both of them are relatively short-term injuries. Max Hairston is eligible to return from IR next week, and both Hoyt and Ogunjobi's suspensions are now halfway done. So those are five people who you were anticipating were going to contribute in some capacity or really – I mean, we're talking about a first-round pick, two of the first guys that they signed in free agency, the best player on the field against the Ravens, and then Matt Milano, who is flashed. These are five notable players. With those, there'll be a couple guys who are not there because injuries happen. But when they have a full kind of cupboard of defensive pieces, I do expect that the defense could take a step forward.
I think Michael Hoyt is going to be a big piece of what they do.
I do
think Michael
too.
Hoyt, I think they have a lot of plans for Michael Hoyt. On this note, I do want to talk about the secondary, but since you brought it up, I wanted to ask you, we had that big Landon Jackson conversation, which was great. And I had a lot of good debate with people on X, which is a really good spot. But I thought about it afterwards. I thought, okay. But Matt, when Larry Ogunjobi comes back, can't you see a scenario that TJ Sanders doesn't get a jersey?
No.
Oh, really? What do they do then? Larry Ogunjobi is inactive?
Yeah.
Oh,
I do not see a
well, then why would they must have, I mean, I see a scenario.
I mean, I admittedly didn't even know when Ogunjobi came back from his suspension if he was going to like immediately go to the 53. Like you could cut him.
But then
I don't think that's going to happen.
Well,
no, you wouldn't have done that because you had a free 6 weeks to just kind of figure out.
But they're eating the salary cap by having him on the roster week one. They could have just released him and saved $1.5 million.
Yeah, but then you lose out on the what happens if you have all of the injuries or what if somebody notable gets. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. What I ultimately think is going to be that they just shift how they have their players active. And TJ Sanders, Deion Walker, Ogunjobi, Ed Oliver, and Daquan Jones are the five defensive tackles that they have active on game day.
Well, they've only run with four, though.
I know. I'm saying I think when you get Ogunjobi back, that has to change.
Right. And you're saying you don't think TJ Sanders could be the odd man out at all?
No, I don't.
Interesting.
I don't.
I wonder. I mean, I think you're probably right that it's more likely it's Ogunjobi inactive. And maybe they do say, okay, well, we can move on now because there's no spot for him on the 53. I could see that as well. I could also see a scenario where they want a veteran, a little bit more veteran presence, and they say, you know what, TJ, we love what you're doing, but we're going to not give you a jersey today.
I just don't see that happening personally. I mean,
right.
I could be wrong.
If it does, we're going to have a good conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Because, man, if you thought I was irritated about Landon Jackson not having a jersey, wait until TJ Sanders doesn't.
Right. That was my point. Now, good point on Max Harrison. Real quick, so everybody knows, Max Harrison and Tyler Bass could both start practicing with the team if they choose after the next game, which is against the Saints. Now, Bass a different boat. We can talk about him down the road. But Hairston, I just think the expectation is if anybody thinks he's just going to just walk on the field
No,
and be a
God,
starter,
gosh,
give me a
no.
break. I mean, the guy hasn't practiced in like 2 months,
Yeah,
pretty
no,
much,
for
right? I
sure.
mean, he's going to take some time. And, he's missed a lot of time. But that said, a lot of people down on Tre'Davious White's game yesterday. I totally understand. And I do think Tre'Davious White, gave up too much in space and in coverage. So did Christian Benford. I didn't think they had their best night Thursday night. I also want to say, I think it's also because the pass rush didn't get home. The plays were extended, and it makes it a little bit tougher on them. And they were giving a little bit too much cushion on those 3rd and longs. You got to be better there. He made a great play, Trey did, to knock the ball away from Achane on one play. But if you were a little disappointed in both the corners and the outside, I understand why. I think Waddle and Hill were a tough matchup for them. They had a little trouble keeping up with them and their speed, but I also think it's because the play was extended quite a little bit too much.
I think that's a big reason why. I also think like that's speed that you will not see from a lot of other receivers. So it's not to say that it's excusable. I think Benford was totally fine. I think he had a couple nice plays, right? He had the one on the deep ball where him and Taylor Rapp had that friendly fire thing where
I think
he
that's
got
the
the winds
only
knocked out of
injury to
him.
note because I don't think anybody else was actually like I never got any other injury reports on the
I
sidelines.
was going to say a
And
couple.
even
I
with
saw
him, it was
James.
just the wind knocked out of him.
Yeah, Epinesa, I saw going to the tent, but came back out. James Cook, I saw going to the tent, came back out.
Can I give you a
Benford.
secret?
Sure.
Sometimes they got to go in there to take a bathroom break.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me either. Right?
I know you know
some
that,
people
but
just don't want to have to go out of the locker room.
that's right. Yes.
I saw a video of Bosa on one of the last plays of the game, kind of like grabbing his arm after it looked like he was diving to make a tackle. I don't know if there's anything there, but it's just kind of something to keep on the back burner. We're going to hear from Sean McDermott in a couple hours here. But yeah, so I mean, 3-0.
3-0. The Bills take care of business against the Miami Dolphins. 2 more home games in a row. The next one is a Sunday, September 28th, 1 p.m. afternoon game. How do you like that, everybody? And by the way, I'm peeking
so
at the
excited.
long-range forecast. Looks like a very nice Sunday afternoon in Buffalo as of right now. It's a little bit down the road, but it looks like it.
I am so unbelievably excited for a Sunday 1 o'clock game. And, like tickets to this game are apparently astronomically expensive because people are, I mean, you only have 2 Sunday 1 o'clock chances this year.
That's
and
right.
you're going to have, you should have good weather for week 4. It's also a game that I think most Bills fans will assume that the Bills will win, right? Like the Bucs game is not an easy game. You always, if you want to go to a game, you probably want to see the Bills win. So Sunday at 1 o'clock. And then now I've always said Thursday night football games, once they're done, are the greatest thing ever. Like now that it's over.
Especially when you win and you can kick up your feet and watch the rest of the league play when your team has won.
That's what I mean. Like,
right,
you sit there, if you're the Bills, you're like, okay, mini bye week. This is awesome. And for us, like, okay, I'll have a 3-day weekend. Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I know it's going to be great. It's going to be great. To kind of sit back, have some great weather, watch the rest of the league, enjoy it, and know that the Bills are the first team in the clubhouse with 3 wins this season in the National Football League. All right, so yeah, Sean McDermott speaks at 11:45 a.m. So by the time you listen or hear this, you might have already listened to Sean and know what's going on, and then we'll have full coverage for you into next week. Obviously, heard it's always game day in Buffalo. Thanks a lot for downloading, listening, subscribing. Thanks to our producer, Mike Rabier. And of course, you can follow us at Sal Sports, at Matt_Bove, also at Sal Sports on YouTube, where you can watch the podcast as well. Make sure you head over to our websites, WGR550.com, WKBW. They got a lot of stuff going over on the social media side, of course, and of course on TV. You had the game, you had a little live show afterwards, right? So little late night for you on the TV side of things after Thursday night football.
Yeah, well, you know what though, guess it's actually not bad. So I have a Whoop band on, which tells me like all of my health, medical, all that kind of nonsense. I got way more sleep than I thought I was going to get. Now it's not good, but guess how much sleep I got? And I'm telling you, I am satisfied with this amount of sleep given the circumstance.
How much sleep did you get? You got 4 hours.
Yeah, good call. I got 4 hours and 14
I could figure that out in my head because I got about the same.
Yeah, and like, listen, that's not good, right?
No.
That's a real quick way of putting yourself into a big hole. But given the circumstance, it feels like because after the Ravens game, I think I got an hour and 40 minutes of sleep. So 4 hours, I feel great.
Well, let's hope Bills Mafia feels great after a win. It's okay, folks. You don't win 50-10, but 31-21 over an arch rival at home to get to 3-0. It's a good thing. The Buffalo Bills We'll be back in action in 10 days, but we'll be back before that. Thanks a lot again for watching, subscribing. It's always Game Day in Buffalo. For Matt, I'm Sal. Take care.